Hi class, my name is Christina Schulte. This is going to be my diversity reflection video based on the podcast, This American Life, the Problem We All Live With. So the first question was just my thoughts on both of the podcasts. And to begin, I thought the first video was extremely surprising to me because only 40 years ago, schools were still very segregated and lower class schools were still getting very low resources for education. And Nicole, one of the podcast speakers, actually talks about how Black schools tend to have way less resources for learning, worse teachers, and less access to AP classes and textbooks and all of that. And back in the 70s, there was actually a study done, and those students going to those primarily lower class schools were doing 39% percentage points worse on state assessments than their counterparts going to higher class schools. And something that I think she brings up that is proven to fix that is integration works, because students who are doing primarily worse in classes benefit from those students who are excelling in their classes, because you kind of learn from your peers. And I can applaud to that, because when I moved from Washington, which is very high on the education totem pole, I went to a school in Education Hill. I moved down to Arizona, which Arizona is the 48th state in education, 48 being the bottom. And I did notice I was put immediately into my advanced classes, but I had friends outside of those classes and I was kind of able to help them with their homework. And I noticed my friends were starting to be in my advanced classes with me. And I just think, integration works. Having students who are doing really well in school compared to students that aren't doing really well, they can learn from their peers and help each other. The second podcast was extremely interesting because it surprised me that Kiana was so widely accepting of the people that she wasn't used to being around, and she was just so enthusiastic about meeting those white children that were visiting her school. And it was nice seeing those white children be so accepting of her and allowing her into their life so easily. And I just think that's how every student should feel. It shouldn't be like a race is like a blockage. It should be something we want to learn from our cultures, from each other's cultures. And I just thought it was very interesting. She was so accepting and she wanted to learn more about their culture, and she wanted to learn what White Kid Wasted was. And she saw that after the game that she went to with those students, they kind of acted out more than the kids she had always grown up with. And when I heard this story, it kind of made me think of privilege. Maybe the students Kiana had been going to school with hadn't ever been able to act out in that way without getting in trouble. And these students in New York these white students in New York were kind of getting away with more than what Kiana was used to. And I think that has something to do with privilege. She grew up in New York, and maybe she was in a bad area before, and now she's in a better area. But it was just really awesome that she was okay that these students were raised differently, and wanted to kind of see how they were raised and benefit from their education resources. And I think that's just how the education system should be. We should be learning each other's cultures and diversities and benefiting from them. The other question was, how would I share this with my fellow educators? And again, I think putting that student who's not doing so well in school, sitting them next to a student who's excelling in all of their classes is really going to benefit those students, because your students helping each other and learning from their peers is really beneficial to the classroom, and it's proven. So it's something that I would make sure that my fellow educators know. And another question, how is this a topic of concern beyond something that should be handled in an educational setting? And I think, unfortunately, there's still schools that are in the lower class neighborhoods that aren't getting the resources they need to let their students excel. And I think that should be handled at a federal level. Those schools need more funding. They need more resources. They need better teachers to go there and help those pupils excel in life. So lastly, it wanted to talk about using the National Center for Education statistics to kind of discuss race among schools. And I thought I was a perfect example for this because I went to a school in Washington compared to Arizona. And in Washington, there was about 2,000 students. 1,000 of them were white, 242 were Hispanic, 482 were Asian, and 53 were Black. So not a lot of African American students, not a lot of Hispanic students, about 10% Hispanic and about 20% Asian and about 50% white. And again, I went to school on Education Hill. The education bar is extremely high up there, and what I was learning up there was grades beyond what I was learning when I came down here for high school. And I do know teachers get paid more up there, so maybe the better teachers are trying to get those jobs up there. But when I moved down to Arizona, there's about 1,500 students at the high school that I went to. 691 of them were white, 556 of them were Hispanic, 127 of them were Black, and then there were some other races, but it was like less than 1%. And I did notice, while it was considered a grade A school, I did notice the education bar was a lot lower than what I was used to in Washington. And again, I think this is something that should be handled at federal level. It should be something like the curriculum should be world or statewide, and there shouldn't be this large gap because there's going to be students that move. There's going to be students who go to colleges outside of the state, and you don't want those students to be behind. So yeah, I believe that's all. I really enjoyed learning about this. It's definitely something that I'm going to be bringing to my classroom, going into wanting to be a history teacher. I'm very excited to get to kind of teach my students about different cultures and diversity and how it benefits us to learn from each other, and making sure my students feel widely accepted in the classroom and at their schools and feel like it's a safe place. So thank you guys.